Hey there, welcome. Today I wanted to talk about uh, what the world needs. And that's like a big topic. It needs lots of stuff. And it depends on which country, which status level we're at, what diseases we're fighting. But there is like a few common problems I see in the West, at least in North America, uh, probably Europe too, probably many parts of the world actually, but specifically in the cultures I've been surrounded by. And this permeates to the spiritual areas of the modern developed world as well. So, what happens often, right now I'm just drinking coffee, watching videos, and researching non-duality and or spirituality in general, and I hear things that I often just disagree with, or something just perks my interest, and I see like, oh, there's something there to unravel, and I find I have a talent of seeing the missing piece or seeing what's wrong, seeing what's limiting, seeing what's stuck, finding the friction. And oftentimes I also have a good talent to find the way out, to find the solution, to find the way to polish the stone to make it so there's no friction. I just usually need help. I usually need others. I usually need a wide array of resources or so on and so forth. So the big thing that I see in my life, for one, is having the capacity without any level of control or manipulation to live a life where I get to grow my own food, practice meditation in nature, help other people, do the same, basically, like have healthy, non-polluted produce and grains and legumes and fruits and nuts and seeds, and also botanicals, whether, they're simple things like rosemary and oregano, or, maybe more potent things, comfrey root and burdock root, or what have you. That's like, to me, taking my karmic system away from the global network that has all sorts of hidden consequences to being more self-sustaining and doing that joyfully with other people. That's like one of the biggest thing any one person can do, on their own habit scale, rather than constantly feeding the giant consumerist machine where metals and petroleum are used at like in the entirety of the web, all contributing to deforestation and ecosystem loss and problems of ethics upon foreign cultures and foreign people, usually, or even our own people, really, if we're honest. And so, one, I just like, there's not enough people doing that, and the property ownership greed is fucked. Like, it's just such a hard barrier of entry that's like basically the only reason I'm not doing that. That's the only reason I'm in an apartment in a city, because to just do the treadmill of having food and having shelter, and basic, recreation at this point, that requires consistent, guaranteed income, and that's just easier and more functional in a city. My wife and I have tried living more rural. At times it's worked, most of the time not really, and so we're here. And otherwise, the best thing we can do, there's like kind of two other avenues, and that's being generous. It's giving, like giving people things they need. Whether that's shelter, food, medicine, clothes, advice, understanding, education, could be any of these or more things, but giving those things in an accessible way so that individuals can access them, not just certain groups, not just wealthy people, not just close friends. None of this is like a judgment. None of this is like all this is like inspirational expansion, not like we're all judged because we're not doing these things. And it's just like, let's inch towards a world where we are actually united, not just talking about unity and yoga and talking about love and ethics on YouTube and in books. Like, let's actually do it. And the kind of last thing I think is accessible to most people to do is influence people in the right way. It's a lot of responsibility, especially with how saturated influence culture is, but it is helpful and it is good. And there's such crap out there. There's so many selfish, unempathetic, misinformed voices. And there's so many just like well-intentioned, just not perfect voices out there, that the more we have a voice towards ahimsa, towards love, towards God, towards infinity, towards boundlessness, I think it's better. Kind of counterbalances the saturation a little bit. But because of the saturation, it's also like not the most effective. Like, it's just, you have to kind of get lucky to reach a wide audience. I make these videos because I enjoy them, and they help myself to just express my insights, and by the off chance it helps someone else, that's great. But obviously it's not the main thing I'm doing with my practice or time, is creating and editing videos. Like, I turn the camera on and of my phone and I speak when it's there. But beyond all that, there are certain patterns that I see, which I've kind of mentioned in other videos, especially the karma yoga non-duality video, is one big one is a lack of hospitality. That's huge. It's just so large right now. It's so insane that we have all these houses, all these rooms, all these spaces that are empty-ish of being utilized, and then we have all these people struggling either with homelessness or just paycheck to paycheck rent. This is kind of like an atrocity of the human spirit, and I wonder why it's happening. Like, why do we need large houses that we don't mostly use? Like, why do we need multiple houses? Why do we need to own an entire apartment building and, you know, exploit finances from like dozens of individuals every month? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, just get decently wealthy and then fuck off. Like, why are we doing this game of greed? And why do we respect it? Like, why do we respect people that strove to own things, and now they do, and now they harm other people by owning those things? Like, why is this a respectable thing? Why is this a life goal for so many people? So many people I know are just like, oh, I want to, you know, have multiple homes so I can rent things, or like flip the house, or make an Airbnb. I'm just like, this is a really bad, unethical goal. Like, this is not something you should do for the oneness of the self, of God, of this existence, exploiting the other parts of ourself so that we can have more material substance that is impermanent and doesn't actually create contentment. And it's rampant. It's really rampant, especially West Coast, North America. It's laughable. And you just got to go through it. You just got to, I say perfect days it, because there's a movie where a dude in Japan just cleans toilets and he's happy as shit. And so that's what I do. But it doesn't make it right that these things are happening. It doesn't mean, like, I'm just hoping on the off chance that this meaning cascades so that people with medium wealth see that their basement can house a human that is struggling. Their extra suite can house a human that is struggling, but not for an exorbitant fee. Just, for something reasonable that pays for damages and utilities. But we don't do that. Most people want to get extra wealthy off of other people who are in need. So that's a thing. So there's this system of exploitation that's very normalized, and I think it's present in our day-to-day interactions. So I think whether we like to see it or believe it or not, we are very conditioned to need to get something from somebody in an interaction. So whether it's a spiritual community or not doesn't really matter. I see it pretty equally everywhere. And that's, a lot of the times wanting sex from people, wanting some kind of connection that will propel our financial stability, meeting other artists or filmmakers, other people in the business. But it's really the core desire is that I get more money. It's not like I'm in love with these people and they're part of the universe and they're just wondrous. No, it's like there's all sorts of people like that and we don't talk to them or pay attention to them because they have nothing for us. And this is actually like a big obstacle for human consciousness in general. But being able to love people, maybe give a bit of time, effort, and generosity to them and be interested in them, even though they don't offer us anything, this is important. This is something we should learn a little bit at least. We don't have to go to the extremes of society, like people that are on the street, literally ODing. We don't need to go to any dangerous territory. We can really just go to people within or just on the edges of our bubble, of our comfort zone, and start to see if that connection can be created without transaction, without needing something to happen. And both parties need to do that. Both parties need to do that at the end of the day. That's another thing, is like, it takes a lot of patience because you can't control other people. Just because we start giving compassion without a need for transaction doesn't mean other people will do this. So it takes patience. It takes time. It takes meeting multiple people. And it doesn't guarantee, even that's like not a thing we should expect. We shouldn't expect, like, I'm going to get a friend out of this. I'm going to get a connection out of this. I'm going to get a spiritual bond out of this. In a way, that's just like a different layer of transaction. Ishvara Dristi, see it all as God. Like, it's all infinity. Like, literally, it is all infinity. Like, that's not an exaggeration. That's not mumbo jumbo, like weird wishy-washy muju. Like, that's like literally what it is, what all is. And so we become more honest and accurate and potential, like being able to actualize our potential when we see all beings as infinite and not just use them as sex objects, money objects, company objects, networking objects, promotion objects. There's a lot of ways we turn people into a value in our head, and that value is what we interact with rather than the true essence of beingness. And this is normal. Like, this is not a good normal, but it's very normal. So it's not about feeling guilty about it. It's just about realizing we have a social moray, a cultural conditioned pattern that's common, and to change it, just like many in the past that have been bad, culturally conditioned modalities that we've changed, or at least are trying to change, like racism and sexism and exploitation. They're all still there, but at least we're trying to change them. That's like a big obstacle in the way. And this goes as far as like because it's so rampant in any given community or group of people, there's somebody that's probably going to be a little extra greedy. There's someone that's going to be basically, there's a good chance someone is like extra transactional, and that this can fuck up the entire network of any group, because that selfishness can be learnt by other people and it can spread, and then other parts of the group become extra selfish. And then in order to be extra selfish, we need to distance ourselves from the thing we're exploiting more and more so that we can keep exploiting them, so we can keep getting a thing from them. Because the more and more we see that we're hurting somebody, the more and more that person sees who's doing it to them, the higher chances of conflict and stopping the transaction. This is why we have a whole society where we basically install institutions in other parts of the world so that we can get resources and then ship them over here to North America or Europe or wherever, and we don't have to think twice about it. The more you exploit, the more that you're selfish, the more transactional you become. Somebody has to be the loser. Someone has to lose. And it's just how it works. There's not infinite, we don't all have infinite resources and things to give and infinite time and energy and capacity. We do in the heart of God, but not during a human experience where we keep believing in limitation. So we're not gonna be able to have everyone be so transactional, so greedy in any given community, any group of people. It doesn't matter who or where or what mixture or how many. It's literally just it's just mathematics. There will be someone that gets the short straw, and we rely on that all the time. Like all the time, every purchase, basically every social gathering, every competition. And this is going to lead me into the next topic, which is competition and comparison, which is so bad. Like, people are such babies. People are extremely immature internally, to the point that I'm like, how did they not grow past this? And it's probably just because society keeps revering competition and comparison and winning and being the better person or being above somebody else. There's this like hierarchy that's revered, and that's where I'm getting to, is like, just like in transactions, there needs to be somebody or multiple people that get the short end of the straw, and then this will, if that pattern keeps going, just rip groups apart in order to maintain the transaction. Because otherwise you keep increasing the probability that the lower tier, the people being exploited, would see who's doing it, and they find ways to stop it because they can see it. They can see the person. They know that it's Kyle, being extra selfish in the group, manipulating others, and like taking time and attention and taking advantage. Well, I'm not going to interact with Kyle then. Kyle fucking sucks. Like, I can love and accept him in all his imperfections, but I'm either going to stop giving him stuff, or we're going to talk about it, and there's going to be conflict and drama and tension. He doesn't want that, because then the pattern stops. Kyle doesn't exist, by the way. It's just a random name. And this is happening like on a large scale, like across the whole world, like in like an infinite number of ways, pretty much. And that's the same with comparison and competition. Like, it's the same internal drive of hierarchy of somebody needs to be lower than me. Like, in the selfish transactional game, it's like based on whatever you're valuing: money, resources, power, attention, effort, basically manpower, people power, whatever it is. But that's the same in competition and comparison. So people are like constantly in covert competition, constantly comparing, and it's just toxic. Like it's just something we shouldn't do at all. Like the things we should compare are like literally like, does this apple taste better than this apple? Like that's where we should compare. Or like, you know, does solar power help more than windmills? Like these are like just data stuff and subjective like taste things are the things that we should compare. One for the betterment of the world and one for the betterment of our joy. But not any beingness, not any sentient being, not any complex organism. There's no like comparative moral values upon whole beings and whole experiencers. Like this isn't what we should do, but we do it all the time. And with sports and individuality and winningness, like the game, there's so much respect and desire and motivation to win, to be better. And the amount of covert competition you can kind of subtly see in groups of people, it's too much. It's causing it to be very difficult to have any level of community, because there's going to be groups of people, certain people, not all people, that are going to need to be smarter, they're going to need to be more successful, they're going to need to be stronger, faster, skilled, like more talented, more popular, more attractive. They're going to have something more than another. So someone has to be like valued negatively in their head so that they can meet a value marker in their head to just have self-worth and comfort, to just feel good and confident, like to just have that basic protocol of humanness, to like interact joyfully. They need somebody that isn't, or multiple people, or everybody. And that's toxic, because that means you can't have a thriving group or network, because you need one or more parts of the network, the group, the community, to basically be shit. And you need to keep viewing them as shit on some variable, not all necessarily. But this is toxic. This is not sustainable. And it's not good for our own mental health, because we always need to be winning on these regards to just feel okay about ourselves, or just to be happy. Happiness is more intelligent if it's not tied to shit like this, especially to other people you can't control. The comparisons is the same. It's just less about competition. It's just more comparing values between each other. And often for most people, when I see this, it's that they compare themselves downward. So it's like they just see everyone as better, or see everyone as more successful, or see everyone as luckier or prettier or whatever. And this is also just toxic. It makes you less of a vibrant member to help and grow and love. And it just doesn't help your own mental, emotional health. It just makes you feel like crap. And so we get into these habits of competition and comparison. So many people do. And we can't have community with it. It's not going to work. It's always going to fall apart. It's always going to create tension. It's always going to have members that get alienated because of this. And then once one member is completely alienated for long enough, one of the other members needs to get a little alienated for people to keep their competition comparative analyses of self-worth afloat. So just don't do it. Like the only competition is just friendly, detached, non-aggressive, consensual, like athletic competition, or games like board games and stuff. Like if you're all consenting to compete on a certain thing and you're all detached and it's all good, then that's healthy, that's fine. But as soon as it's covert, as soon as it's about self-worth and it's not detached, this creates a lot of problems. So, because it basically means that you can't have every node in the network be functional in like, or like uplifted or happy or joyous or like good. Like you need either somebody to be the short straw, or if there is no short straw, I'm gonna feel like the short straw and be less of a good member, a good like bright source of love, because I'm not winning, I'm not the smartest, so I'm sad or I'm angry, or I'm down or I'm confused. And it's just stupid. It's just immature. It's like super childish, and like everybody does it. Like the oldest, most wise looking people do it, and it's dumbfounding. It's really dumbfounding. It's just probably a lack of self-awareness, like a lack of self-awareness, and then like the societal acceptance of competition and being the one who wins in the competition. And I mentioned control, and that's like probably the last big one that's kind of getting in the way of proper community. Proper community is kind of what I think the world needs, so that we all can have like our basic needs met and focus on greater things, rather than like talking emptily into airwaves while struggling to just have needs while paying millionaires extra money for no good reason so that they can keep destroying the planet, just so we can keep doing this loop of talking about virtue and then just struggling to pay rent, and then the people in power get the rent, and then it's just an endless cycle. So community, where we just can help each other and trust each other, it's like kind of vital. And it's not easy unless we are actually intelligent and mature and loving and compassionate and able to grow and transform. And one thing that you need to not do is control other people. Every community I've ever been, there's either one or a couple people that are just such little controlling megalomaniacs that it's like, it's the same thing. You need some other being to be like in a state below your valuation. Like you have this value of yourself as the leader, or you know what's right, or you're like smart, or like this is the way to do things, this is how to speak and act, and I have this positive valued framework of what I do and what I accept, and I need other people to do that too. So I need them to like contract, and I need them to be, smaller and less creative and less free than they are, so that I feel okay. And I need that to stay for the rest of my life. Yeah, this is fucked. This is not how you make a good world. And so we ought to reflect on how we control other people. And it can be as simple as just like controlling how people speak, the words they're allowed to say. And it's usually not like direct control. It's usually not like authoritative control. It can be, but it's often actually emotional manipulation. Basically, people do things we don't like. We throw tantrums until they stop. It's a very childish mechanism of controlling the words and the tones and the gestures and the ideas and the beliefs of other people. For example, just like simple things like how you say or pronounce something, or like, if you act a certain way and it's not like culturally acceptable or it's not normal, and there's just like this tension and this botherment and this anger and this irritation in somebody, and they produce that to get you to stop. And they don't stop reacting negatively until you stop doing the thing they don't like. This is very common, and I think it makes it really hard to have any bonds with people and to make new bonds with people. And I think that it's especially hard when we can just go and experience pleasure on our computers and phones and so far, and food and sex and nature. We can just like do other things that don't react negatively to us. None of these things, which will give us pleasure, they're not going to react negatively to us. They're not. We're not going to need to walk on eggshells. We can sit naked with our cock in our hand, fucking scrolling and watching whatever we want, and nobody's going to react negatively to us. Why wouldn't we do that when you never even know you could say something just slightly wrong in some group of people and they're flaring up? Why would we? It's like we have such a pleasure driven world, and then we have such a sensitive, kind of emotionally immature like training that how can we even step into building community for our, even like on our own system? It's just like we have these two options. Like I can just do things that are fun, even if they're not the best. Like they're not the best habits or they're not good for the world, but they're just like in the moment fun and pleasurable and they don't give me shit. Or you could take the chance and be amongst other people and you never know when it's gonna just suck. It's just like you're just being a human being, you mean nothing wrong, and just somebody is particular or offended or sensitive or controlling, which are all just aspects of control. It's all just you want the world to be a certain way, you want people to be a certain way, so you get upset at them until they do what you want. We can't have this. Like literally, like the only amount that we can have this is like this person literally physically assaulted this person or like sexually assaulted them or like is manipulating them actively. Let's get upset at that injustice until it stops and do things to make it stop and take action, not just yell at them. That's good. Like that's fine. But there's a big difference between like real injustices that cause actual suffering and things we don't like. And a lot of people don't know this. They don't have this discernment in their head, and there's not really a lot of tools out there to learn how to discern that. When you know how to discern, it's common sense. But when you don't know how to discern, it's very confusing. You hear this a lot, like, you made me feel this way. Nobody made you feel anything. You have a habituated reaction that is under your responsibility. That's it. There's no other story. Unless someone literally stabbed you and made you feel pain, you are the arbiter of all emotional reactions in your life. We have to accept this truth, and it's not like me just being insensitive and like on that whole, conservative, manly, whatever shit. Like I'm not into any of that stuff. It's just a fact that all emotional reactions that we have to anything are our responsibility. Even if we didn't mean to, we just were conditioned a certain way to react a certain way. It's still our responsibility. It's not anybody else's responsibility. But that's usually what happens is people do things we don't like, we react until they stop, rather than, oh, maybe I should change how I react. And then have like earnest, calm conversations about things if something is like really unethical and needs to change in somebody. So it's kind of like those are like the main things I see in groups of people that just make it so it's like this isn't functional long term to stay in a community together. It's just not going to work, and the controlling happens in that emotional manipulation way, but it also happens in just people that are owners of property and they're leaders, and they'll just be like, do what I say or leave. Like, you listen to me or you don't have a home. It's just like, you do exactly the protocols I put out, or I'm not feeding you things. Like I'm not letting you survive here. Like that's like this happened to me like multiple times. Like I'm just like literally this compassionate, fun guy that will work hard for any good project. Like honestly, like that's never not been the case. And people, just because I'm like outspoken and I like to talk about stuff, and maybe my voice sounds a certain way or I look a certain way, I don't know what the fuck it is. People have just said like, you either like stop or I'm making it so you don't have a home current like temporarily or food temporarily, or just straight up like, no, you're gone. Like I'm kicking you out because I disagree with you, because I don't like the way you talk, even though like you're not manipulative, you're not doing anything bad, you're not lying, you're not insulting anybody, you're not judging anybody. I didn't like it, and so I'm using my power to make your life far worse just because I'm emotionally immature and I can't like get past my own reactionary habits of things. This is widespread. Like this is like it's hilarious how many people do these things. So if we want a good world, we do have to work on ourselves, and we can't just like spin philosophy, spirit words. We can't just like consume content that we think is like of high value or quality. We need to psychologically, like psychosomatically work on how we respond and view the world and each other. So we need to be hospitable and generous. We need to be non-transactional, at least to a good degree. Like we can accept that that might just be part of some level of interaction as transaction, but we can't be like hyper focused on that. We have to be able to detach and just love and help. We need to not be in competition with people all the time and comparing to people all the time. And we need to not control them. These are all internal qualities that then bleed into habits that we do with our words and our bodies that we individually need to take responsibility of. Otherwise, we can't have a saying, like we literally can't have a healthy, functioning community of any size, because it's always going to amount in drama, in tension, and people being kicked out, and people being left in the dust, people being exploited, and it's just not going to function. And that's why I think at the end of the day, we do have a almost global society in some senses, not fully global, but it's pretty widespread that we're individual focused. We live in our little boxes and we focus on our pleasure individually. And all of our exploitation is mostly far away and we can't see it and we can't even empathize with the other end because we don't know how to change our system to be with other people. And we don't even know how to be with somebody, which I'm not trying to like toot my own horn. I see these things and it just happens to be that I see these things and I know how to solve them. People have like such a resistance to change. That's kind of the last one. They just want to be in their vices and their patterns and they don't want to change. And anybody that comes in to help change it, they can get ostracized just out of subconscious fear. So I just wanted to, I just like watching videos and I'm like seeing these types of things and just like in the video, just like Buddhist monk reacts to something or like Sam Harris reacts to something. I'm just like, why are you reacting? Like, why do you have this pattern? You know, like, or like thinking back in my life of like, why didn't those communities work out? It's like, oh, it's because everyone's transactioning, everyone's controlling others, everyone's just comparing to others, and it's unhealthy. And we need this for the world. Like, we just like need it. Like, it's not like it's gonna keep going in a not good direction the more we make dysfunctional groups and networks. So I hope it helps. I hope it helps us like, you know, humble our own consciousness so that we can change for a better world. Thank you for listening. Om Sai Ram.